Hello, you're watching Spelunky and you're watching me, but you're not really, you're actually you're watching me playing Spelunky in a Spelunky daily challenge where there's not very much daily Spelunky left to do. This is what's happened so far today. I meant to start this a bit earlier, but the technical problem technically happened. So if I want to beat everyone else, which is all I want to do, I need to get a little bit more than that. Previous days I've not done anything, as you can see, because I've had a cold and I have a bad shoulder and life and things happen, so it's very important that I appear and sort of restate my dominance over my friends, because that's the relationship that I have with them. Every time that I do this, there's a topic that I talk about. You know what? I did say that this batch of 10 would be things that's particularly important to me, but in fairness, some of the other earlier ones were as well. But anyway, as you've seen above the video already, unless you haven't looked above the video, in which case you want to look above the video now, but then it'd make no sense to look above the video, because why would I tell you anyway? The subject is Calvin and Hobbes, which is a comic strip which everyone knows and you've all heard of, and a bit like, I suppose, Carl Sagan, which I was talking about a little while ago. When I was younger, some people knew about Calvin and Hobbes, but now with the internet, I think everyone is aware of it, even though it hasn't been running for ages. Calvin and Hobbes, it was a comic strip, which was widely syndicated around the world, I think, in the 80s and 90s for 10 years, from 1985 to 1995, and it was entirely done by a chap called Bill Watterson, who drew it and wrote it, and I think even lettered it, maybe. And at the time it was very well regarded and it was terribly successful, and I'm not sure when I discovered it. It'd been going for a little. Oops, hello spider. Oh, the police are outside. I don't know if you can hear that, but there's sort of the standard sound of Lewisham, which is crime. It's gone now. The crime's gone. The crime's been solved. So that's fantastic. Glad to see that our money is being well spent on negating crime. Should point out that obviously I'm not a fan of crime at all and would never commit to. Whoops. How did that happen? Let's drop a guy here. There might be a place to sacrifice him, so you never know. But I encountered Calvin and Hobbes sometime, I guess, in the very, very late 80s or the early 90s, when it was quite established. And I instantly really, really liked it. I immediately got it. I would have been sort of a fairly small kid at the time. I was maybe 9 or 10, maybe. And I don't think it was really for me. Although some of the other stuff could be read by kids, like you had Garfield kind of all over the place, and Garfield is a thing that people know. And I got Garfield. Garfield was more for kids as well, but I don't know if Calvin and Hobbes was, because it was way too wry. But I'd better explain more about it and why it matters so much to me and why I've included it in my batch of 10 important things. Calvin and Hobbes, I think fairly quickly became something quite unusual for a comic strip. And this must be why it remains popular now, it had a lot more maturity and variety and imagination and dry wit and an awful lot of different things that it did. Different plot lines that it tackled and different issues that it brought up, and also it looked pretty good. There is a Calvin and Hobbes strip, and this is a tiny digression, I guess, where I think Calvin is saying that his dad doesn't like comic strips, or someone doesn't like comic strips because they're all photocopied talking heads, and the strip itself is a satire on this, because none of the characters move and they look pretty much identical from frame to frame, except slight pose changes to show who's speaking. And you know what? Actually, quite a lot of comic strips are kind of like that. Calvin and Hobbes had some really, really lovely art. It had some lovely inking and some, there we go, some lovely inking and some really lovely watercolour work, I think, at times as well. What are you going to do now? Nothing, because you're dead. Yeah, I don't know why I'm so happy that I just squashed the spider. Which is not something that I actually do in real life, because I find it a bit mean. But it looked really good, and especially as more and more watercolour stuff and more experimentation with comic strips happened, it looked better and better. A lot of comic strips are usually 3 pictures in a row, I guess. And the creator Bill Watterson tried very hard not to do that. Tried very hard to go, well, you know, let's break out of this standard shape of things and have some panels larger and some smaller. Because why not? And I think initially there was some resistance to that, but he eventually got his way, I think, because people saw what he was doing and it looked very good. But so far I've still not told you very much about Calvin and Hobbes. The problem I've got with a lot of these topics is I don't know where to start, and I kind of start in the middle, and hopefully that makes things... They're all interesting. Everything's interesting. Trust me on this. They're all interesting. I'm really distracted by what's happening down here. Really distracted and really bothered by the shop. And also everything. No. There we go. Don't come out, because I want you to go back in so I can shoot you in the back, just like I would in real life. Whoops. That was a bit risky, wasn't it? That was a bit sort of touch and go. There we go. Fine. Not worried about the guy above me, because obviously he's not going anywhere. Because the funny thing about this version of Spelunky is it does like to just put shopkeepers in holes in places for some reason. Lovely. Calvin and Hobbes, as I say, ran for 10 years, and as it's quite well known, you may also know the reason it stopped, which is, well, I don't know if this is the definitive reason, but unlike a lot of other comic strips, it was never merchandised, or it was never turned into something that was more than a comic strip. It never had a TV series incarnation, or it never had throwing sticky bombs is really hard. I kind of need to do it to get rid of this guy, and I'm aware that there is a ghost happening to me. Alright, we need to lure the ghost away. I say we because you're complicit in everything that I do by watching this video, which includes all the crimes. Oh, I want to start sacrificing people in this. That's what I should be doing. Okay, let's leave a gun here and take 2 dead shopkeepers, because that's got to be worth points. Calvin and Hobbes. The thing is, it started off, I think if I remember the early strips, fairly kind of standard. It's about, I haven't even mentioned what it's about. It's about a 6-year-old boy called Calvin and his apparently stuffed tiger Hobbes, although when no one else is around, Hobbes appears to come to life in a way that could just be a kid's imagination, but leads to all kinds of interesting things happening. No, Hobbes is probably not alive, but I think there's enough ambiguity in what happens to have people questioning, and actually I think that's really neat. And what Calvin does, and this is immediately one of the clever things about the strip, because it's about a 9-year-old boy with incredible imagination. You know, when you are a child of that age, you could have all kinds of things running around in your head. It provides all kinds of plot hooks and ideas, and this is how the strip grew over time. There are so many different, I suppose, sub-characters that are characters invented by Calvin himself that he becomes. I don't want to get trapped down here because that'd be awful. And some of the strips are just entirely in character, or their attempts to remain entirely in character. He plays a superhero called, what's a superhero called? It's got Spaceman Spiff, who is a spaceman explorer. Is it Captain Marvelous? Oh, this isn't good. Or he's got Tracer Bullet, who is the private eye that he likes to play sometimes. But these are usually in the context of being a 6-year-old boy. So often these fantasies, even though the strip starts with him in character and they may depict him as a private eye in a noir kind of situation, or they may depict him in space as Captain Spiff, they tend to break down because the real world tends to intervene and ruin Calvin's fun. Not necessarily in a horrible way, but in a way that can be quite funny. And all of us, having been kids at some point, will probably relate to some of it too. No, Mr. Ghost. No, not today. What do we say to the ghost? Not today. If I can stop hanging on to everything. But what this immediately does is it gives loads and loads of range for the strip to go to all kinds of places and do all sorts of things. Doing quite well. I've got 7 health, 7 hearts, 7 whatever the thing is. What's the stuff called? I hate the word health. I've got 7. And that's, for a writer, that's really neat to have that range of topics and characters and things you can draw upon. Ooh, careful now. If you just get stuck in that web for now, that's fine. Or that web. Or you know what, that'll do. And that is a potential for tremendous range. But there's also a lot of Calvin's everyday life, which is really interesting and really revealing, because as we get to know Calvin more and as the strip develops, you get to see, I suppose, I don't know if I want to say a typical only child, because I don't know what that would be, but you get an amount of a typical lonely child maybe. You get to see stories of Calvin at school not really being terribly excited by a lot of his work. You get to see him being bullied at school. You get to see him often playing alone, or really playing with the one friend he seems to have, which is a girl called Susie Durkins, and you get to see his relationship with Susie, which is probably antagonistic, although it's not entirely clear how much he likes Susie. Susie is a little bit of a moral centre for the strip as well, and reflects some of the maturity in the strip, because she often turns out to be quite lucid, and while Calvin is excited and imaginative and madcap, Susie is quite restrained at times, and certainly has quite a lot of perspective on things. And at one point there's a particularly I think incisive strip where I can't remember what they're doing. I just remember Susie's line of what is it you intend to be, and Calvin says something and she says, well, I guess that's better than, Calvin I think says something very silly. She says that's better than being 20 pounds underweight, which is what, you know, I'm expected to be. Oh no, no. Oh my goodness. Obviously the bomb on the shopkeeper's entirely deliberate, but I didn't think that he would, I'm not joking, it actually is a thing I do. I don't think he'd come straight for me. I didn't think it would activate him. I've gotta go over here. I've gotta see what's over here. I can't just go through the door. Oh no, oh dear, oh, it's a disaster. It's not a disaster, it's not good though, I'll admit that. No, don't hang on to everything, Mr. Spelunky man. That's no help to anyone. I'm not having this. What I need is more bombs and more ropes. That's what I desperately need, is to find shops that I can raid. And the game knows that I want to do this, and it's not interested. Calvin and Hobbes, like I say, ran for about 10 years. And I think was generally quite widely syndicated. There must be a shop in that direction. In which case, let's not go there. Because... Oh, what? Oh, because you triggered the thing. And now you've got my gun. These guys drive me nuts every time they appear. They always cause me problems. They always do stuff that makes me unhappy. Don't get in the way of... Okay. Do you see what I mean? Do you see what I mean? It's like, I don't even know what it's like. Can I just get the gun back because I need to shoot a thing? Good heavens. I mean, I appreciate their ability to just avoid death, but, you know, it at a cost. It comes at a cost. And that cost is me not avoiding death. But yes, Watterson did very well for a long time. I believe he won a number of awards for his work because it was quite widely recognised as being very good and looking very good and being very imaginative. And I'm not going to use a bomb to get that dog because inevitably I'm going to need more than one bomb to find the secret door. I don't know what that shopkeeper's doing. The problem that, oh no, that might be right, that might be enough if I've knocked him away from the gun and I just repeatedly fire into the distance. It's about as sophisticated as I get. So yeah, Calvin and Hobbes was good. Oh yeah, oh please kill the shopkeeper. Please explode that shopkeeper. No, alright. Capitalist. Oh no, just leave me alone. I don't want him to leave me alone because I want the money in his pockets. It did terribly well, but Bill Watterson felt under increasing pressure to market it, to do other things with it, to not just have it as a comic strip, which was widely syndicated and successful. No, he could have had Calvin and Hobbes, everything from Calvin and Hobbes, the TV series, to Calvin and Hobbes lunchboxes and stickers and items and clothing. But he didn't feel a particular desire to have that, which is fine because he wanted to make a comic strip, and I think what he said was he wanted the strip to stand on its own, and that to be the thing he created, not the thing that he created to be a bunch of other stuff. Which a lot of people always say they respect him for, and I think is probably a fair thing to say. Once you've built something in particular and that thing in particular is doing well, I don't think there's anything bad about having t-shirts and mugs, and actually I think that could be lovely. But if you don't want to have t-shirts and mugs, I don't think that's particularly bad to not want to have t-shirts and mugs. But he said he was increasingly pressured to do something. Oh, if you just stay there and get stabbed, I'll be so happy, but you don't seem to be doing that. Oh wait, maybe you are. Gaming the system any way I can. And so somewhere around Christmas or near the end of 95, that was, oh my lord. This is, I tell you what, I now don't know what to expect at all from this game. I did not know that was going to happen. I did not know that could happen. It would be really good, maybe, can I go under him and put a bomb under there? No, because it's just going to release him. So, this for the championship, there we go. See, easy game, very easy game. And now we're going to put him on an altar. Thanks Trap, thanks for that. Right, so that's a thing that then didn't happen. And now this, you know what, I hate these things and they always kill me. But I've got bombs aplenty now, so I can do stuff like that. And you bet I want to have what's in the water, if there's anything in the water. There's nothing in the water, so all in all, success all round there. And bats. Calvin and Hobbes was good. What else should I mention? Let's go into some of the characters, as well as the remarkably bright Susie, who had often quite amusing things to say and very amusing interactions with Calvin. You had his poor parents, who I think had, I don't know if they had a particularly difficult time with Calvin getting out of there. I could have tried to do the dog, but with the health I'm on, I'm just asking for trouble. And this will probably be where I die. Yeah, I don't know if you could call them long-suffering parents, because I think raising any child is an amount of work. But certainly his mother and his father, who never had names, and who you see a little more of in their lives, I guess. You mainly see them reacting to Calvin. His parents had a taxing time with him, which is often very amusing. Oh, blimey, I thought that guy was a shopkeeper then, because I'm too busy looking at the frog at the top of the screen. Oh, you see? Do you see what I mean? Do you see? No, it's not I died again. It's I was shot by the dude who's supposed to be on my team, who, rather than shooting at the frog and I'm going to play this back, I'm pretty sure the frog was in the other direction. That is absolute proof that you should never ever use those guys, that they are utter rubbish. They are terrible. And I'm glad that I've always believed this, and now my views are vindicated. So I'm sorry I couldn't tell you more about Calvin and Hobbes. I'm still maybe a little bit under the weather, and was distracted, and I should have maybe read something beforehand rather than doing it off the top of my head. But given that it ended in 1995 and it's now nearly 20 years later, there are people I know who didn't exist when Calvin and Hobbes existed. So you may not be too aware of it. It's definitely worth investigating the collections. It's definitely worth reading it. And it's important to me because this is the point I didn't get across as I was working my way up to second place. It was really influential, I think, on me as a kid reading it, because it demonstrated the power of different points of view in storytelling and imagination, and the fact that I think what people believe is real as characters is as important as what is real. But it was terribly wry, and some of the jokes that just fitted into 3 panels are excellent, as well as some of the ongoing stories. I've talked a lot and you've watched, and thank you for watching all of these and leaving lots of really good comments. I really appreciate that, actually. That's been lovely. What I'll do now is I don't know, that's none of your business. Go away.